Now then, this is Home Life 15. I wasn't planning on doing one of these for a while, but some friends of mine are suffering a bit with the lockdown and various symptoms, so therefore this is an update especially for them. So we're just going to go through things that have changed from the last video, but on top of that, this here is the last of the sweet chestnut firewood. Now, I bought an Arctic load, or if you're in America, a semi load of sweet chestnut, and it had been split, and it was big stuff that had been split down the middle, and it was in 8-foot lengths, and it had been sat on a ride side for about a year and a half. So there's two things why I bought that. One, it was partially dry, and two, it was a very good price. So when it came on the Arctic, now normally on that sort of huge lorry load with its own crane, you would get something for a heavyish timber like sweet chestnut. If it was green, you would get 26 tons on a load, and this was a full load. You know, we're not talking half loads, it was a full load right to the top of the pins, and it was 18 tons. So that meant we hadn't bought 8 tons of water, and it was a good price. So there you go. This is the last of it. I think we bought the whole Arctic load about 8 years ago, and we've been slowly nibbling our way through it. And of course, you'll have seen me mill some, pick out the best bits, make some gate posts, and of course the new window that you'll have seen odd bits, its construction, will have been made out of some of the sweet chestnut from here. So there you go. So let's have a look at what else has been going on. So this wood pile here, or that wood shed, is 3/4 full, which is great. Yeah, the ones by the house are full, but there's one we've started working on when we needed it. So there we go. Let's just move round on live wobbly cam, and you can see, you know, it really is more than 3/4 full. Okay, and the meadows around the house and through the woods, the hay's been cut from that and baled. They just about got it right before it started this recent bout of rain, and now we are on the 10th of July, and it was raining yesterday and this morning, but hopefully we'll have another week now of reasonably good weather. There are a few butterflies fertling around, and normally when it's warm this is full of dragonflies and what have you. Now then, when you cut hay, obviously it's got to be the right weather conditions, and the grass has got to be in the right condition, i.e. it's grown and you've got seed heads, but it's before the stem starts to dry off and basically die, and then all the goodness goes out of it. But then when you've done that, then you have to manage what's there. Now sometimes we can get a shepherd to bring some sheep and they will eat it down, but if that's not the case, before you start overwintering, you need to top this, just so you don't get a thick matty layer in the bottom when it starts growing in the next spring. That's sort of a way so that if you got that thick matty layer, when you cut it the next year, there's all that stuff that keeps the damp in. and in the UK making hay can be rather a nerve-wracking and fraught week or two. And coming up in another video fairly soon, I'll be repairing the topper that we use for this. Goes behind the tractor, so I'll just show you that whilst we're here. And of course all the solar panels are busy working very well at the moment. This is about a third of them. It's only when we get round to late October through to February that we have a problem with generation, i.e. not enough of it. And I got called out to a little small holding where they're having problems with their solar system, and next time I go, hopefully I'll take the camera with me and show you a few tests that I will do. And here's that 5-foot mower topper, pasture topper, and there was some damage on the front which wanted repairing and strengthening up, because that main cross member there had been hacked about something rotten. And there's an aeroplane, hang on. So we had quite a struggle with this to undo the blade mounting nuts and bolts and whatnot, and we had to get everything cherry red with the oxyacetylene just to get them to move. So that was my neighbour, brilliant guy, came and gave me a hand. Not a fuss, perfect. Right, what else have we been doing? There we go, it's the old charcoal kiln. We had a charcoal burn and it turned out quite well. Used lots of stuff about sort of 2-3 inches in diameter, got it really hot, and then shut it down, and it's turned out very good. So let's just have a look at what we actually made. So here we go. It's really quite good stuff. And there's 4 bags, or 4.5 bags. So that's brilliant. Keep that nice and dry, that'll do well. I couldn't get round to using the retort that I made. It's still not perfect. I mean, probably it'd be fine in this warmer weather, but I think it needs some insulation round it, and I just didn't get round to it. And I'm just trying to show across there. There it is, in the shed, waiting inspiration. And this is the tracking. Can you see that turbine blade just move there? There we are. I did a video about that years ago where we had an amp meter moving regularly up and down, and it was because the sun and the turbine blades were in a certain direction, it was affecting output. I wonder if I can remember to put a link for that. It was quite entertaining really. Anyway, this, I made this donkeys years ago, and it's been modified several times, but it tracks the sun. So we'll just go and have a look, but it's just continued to work. And of course, we don't actually track the sun, we track the time where the sun should be. That's a lot easier, and it's just a simple timer. You can see that shadow just moving across that panel. That does affect the output. And it's actually moving. Hopefully you can see that wheel moving. Now it's stopped. Isn't that fortuitous? That's what I call an omen. Just walked around here and lo and behold, it's moving. Omens are worth taking note of. And that's the pivot there. That's just all greased up, and 2 big lumps of angle iron either side, and then at the top there, if we can get to it, there's a big self-aligning bearing, and that just moves backwards and forwards day in, day out, year in, year out, with very, very little maintenance. Just a bit of grease on there occasionally, and check the oil in the gearbox down there and make sure things aren't literally falling apart. Right, let's carry on with other things. So here's the leaks. They're a bit difficult to film in this bright sunshine behind me, but these are really cracking on very nicely. You'll remember me planting these, and we've actually started to have a few now. And the green beans, the runner beans, there we go, we've got the first few coming, which is great. Again, you remember me putting these posts up. They're French climbing beans. They produce purple beans that end. And this is that extra double row of leeks that will grow on. And here we've got a courgette. And we've just picked the gooseberries, a lot of them, and they were just starting to go red, and there's a couple there, hopefully you can see them. And here's the last half a basket of gooseberries. Fairly sweet gooseberries, not the light green ones like that, but the darker ones. Pretty good. And the raspberries are still producing a few more. We are a couple of weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later than the last video. Broad beans, yeah, plenty of those. I like to put them in stews. And we've started to pull some of these carrots. It's a bit difficult for me to see what I'm doing here. And next door to it is beetroot. And as you can see, the bee borage has extended itself somewhat. New plants are just springing up and the bees are going mad for them. And just here, that's feverfew. So you can pick those flowers, and that'll help with headaches and aches and pains. Dry them, and half a dozen of those in a little teapot. Perfect. Which reminds me, hopefully everybody is still drinking their nettle tea for health reasons. And these are some of those winter lettuce. Now, when we had it really roasting hot, 3 weeks ago, something like that, the lettuce in the glasshouse, they bolted, as in they started going to seed very quickly. They just don't like the heat. So I planted some, remember those, there was a pot with some very small seedlings in? Well, these are they, and I planted them out here with a bit of netting over to keep the pigeons off. So they should do quite well out here, and now we've had all this wet, they should bomb away. But this is where the garlic was, and I turned it over and put a barrow load of compost from the compost heap in there, dug it in, little bits of twig and everything. And these lettuces will love that. And next door to it is kohlrabi, which is a brassica type, but they have swollen stems, so it's almost like, I don't know if we can see, there we go, that's just starting to develop. It's a turnipy sort of flavour. So another 2 or 3 weeks and we can start harvesting these. Very easy to grow. And at the moment, no cabbage white have attacked them. I can't remember whether they do attack them or not. And the lockdown it's still easing off, and I'm not sure. I think we all have to be very, very careful, because whatever the politicians say, and we come in the glasshouse now, so we've got an echo, and we're on wobbly cam, but if you can see, that is tomato variety Ailsa Craig, and including the pot, that is more than 6 foot high now, and look at all the tomatoes on there. And the Roma, which last year did better than the Ailsa Craig, are not doing as well this time, but there's some tomatoes there. And more here. Look at those, isn't that brilliant? And these were some of those winter lettuce that were starting to go to seed, and I just chopped them off to see if they'd produce more. And normally they would produce more leaf, but they're going to seed again. So they're obviously decided it's too warm, can't cope with this. And I've got some more lettuce here. I'll have to give them a good watering tonight, but we'll see whether they grow on or bolt. And the cabbages in the brassica cage are doing very well. Purple sprouting and Brussels sprout. No sign of cabbage white yet. Brilliant, brilliant. The nursery. And the thing everybody wants to see is how we're doing with the alders. Let's put this somewhere where we can assess its full height. That's more than 12 inches high now. Let's put a brick next to it. The brick is 9 inches. There we go. Isn't that amazing? From seed this year. It's almost like we'll have to pot those on to keep them growing well. That's perfect, isn't it? And these are some grand fir. I rescued these. They were basically dying of drought and neglect. So I potted them on last year. They were in just little modules, minute little things. And when you look there, actually, I potted it on a bit high out the ground. Where are we? See those odd bits of root? But this year we've got 2 inches of new growth. They didn't have a terminal bud last year, none of them. They'd all died off. But they've created a new terminal bud. I think we can plant some of these out this winter. We do plan on extending our woodland area if we can. Of course, nowadays there's lots of problems with planting trees that wouldn't have been around 30 years ago. Deer is one of the major ones. You get a lot of damage. And 100 years ago the estates had everybody in slavery really, and so therefore they could have loads of people working for them on 4 shillings a fortnight or something like that. But it's not the case anymore, which I suspect is a good thing. Anyway, we're going to plant some more woodland, which is great. And I'm just looking here over the glass house, and all that lot there, Monterey pine and a coast redwood, and that there in the middle of the shot is a walnut, and there we've got that one there is a Scots pine. Beautiful against the blue sky. What more do you want? And this is just in the shade of those Monterey pines. They are quite ant-like. And there's a couple of oaks here that we planted in 1986. Just walking through. Shady area. And just here I took a limb off this oak and I recorded the growth every year. Now you can almost see the growth rings of this callus, and I think that was cut off about 6 or 7 years ago. So in the next week or two I will continue that series and show the development. It's just interesting, but in this light you can really see those growth rings of that healing callus, which is brilliant. It's very cool under here. And that is a Norway spruce. Here's yet another solar array. 7 panels. Mobile. I did move this a couple of years ago, and it's in a lot better position. And actually the cable, which is armoured cable, there it is, it's notched into the ground along here, and just underneath there there's one of those joins with the plastic rainwater pipe and pitch. And if I remember, again, I will put a link to that video. It's recycling, or no, reusing short lengths of armoured cable, because it's quite intense to recycle that stuff and there's a lot of waste. So reuse it and make the waterproof joints yourself. So this works well, this mobile array. Just hook the little tractor up to the front of it and jack it up, undo the cable, and away you go if you need to, but I suspect now that is in its final position. And this is another of the meadows. This is called the East 60 foot because it's on the east of the property and it's 60 foot wide. And here, in amongst all this lot, this was open field back 25 years ago. So we bought 60 foot off the edge of the field and we planted a hedge and some trees, and these are grand fir. And let's just see if we can get in there. There's 5 planted together, Counter to the Winnie the Pooh, which is 6 pine trees, this is 5 grand firs. And they seem to like it. And down the bottom there's a little stand of poplar. That's robusta, so it's a steady growing poplar, so the timber is reasonably dense. Nice habitat. It's all very nice habitat. And luckily the sun's gone in, so I can face this way. And remember the adage, build a habitat and they will come and live in it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. It's a bit of a newsy sort of thing really. Stay safe, be cautious, catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.